Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are calling in from. It's a delight to have you with us for this Faiths for Oceans briefing. My name is Gulpal Patel. I am one of the co-leads of Faiths for Oceans. I'm here joined by my colleagues Tariq Al-Olaimi and Elise Depenot, who are based in Bahrain and France, respectively, and they'll also be sharing outcomes along with myself from the Our Ocean conference that happened 2 weeks ago in Mombasa, Kenya. We're very excited to have you all with us. Please do put your names and organizations and where you're calling from in the chat. And if you have a favorite ocean or a favorite ocean experience, please put that in the chat as well. I'd love to bring some life to this conversation. We'll share for about 30 minutes in terms of what happened at the Our Ocean conference 2 weeks ago, and then we'll open up for a bit of a discussion and conversation around next steps and how to move this work forward. Just a context set, Faiths for Oceans is part of the Future Faith Network. Future Faith is a non-profit organization based here in New York City, which closes the distance between where people hold their deepest values and where the decisions that shape the world are actually met. Faiths for Oceans is part of a broader ecosystem which also includes Faiths for Land and Faiths for Biodiversity. And this work matters and is important because there is a moral dimension to ocean conservation that we feel has been overlooked for a long time. The statistics on the screen there, most of you will be familiar with. 85 or 84% of the world's population identify with a faith tradition. Faith communities in total own or manage about $5 trillion in assets, and yet this has been vastly underutilized or mobilized for ocean conservation. And then the ocean consists of over 71% of the world, and yet it's often overlooked in a lot of our spiritual and religious environmental activism and advocacy work. And so we feel there's a real moment and a real opportunity here for faith communities to be raising their voices for the ocean. And this campaign, Faiths for Ocean, it launched last year at UNOC 3 in Nice. Many of you were also there with us, where we brought a high-level delegation and issued a number of statements and reports around the state of ocean conservation from a faith-based perspective. And now we have shifted from being a discrete campaign leading up to UNOC to now being a permanent movement, Faiths for Oceans, mobilizing faith communities globally for this work. So 2 weeks ago on the Swahili coast in Kenya, global leaders gathered for the Our Ocean Conference, the 11th that has taken place. The Our Ocean Conference is a governmental, high-level government conference. It's not specifically a UN gathering. It started 11 years ago by Secretary John Kerry when he was at the State Department. And every year, the Our Ocean Conference gathers in a different country specifically to announce new commitments around ocean conservation. And this was the first time it has taken place on the African continent. There were 6 themes for the Our Ocean Conference in Mombasa, as you can see on the screen here: marine protected areas, or MPAs as they are known, a sustainable blue economy, climate change, sustainable fisheries, marine pollution, and maritime security. And as I mentioned, the Our Ocean Conference really is a space for and to announce commitments. And so in total, 320 commitments were announced, financially committing $6.4 billion. Over 100 countries were represented and over 5,000 participants, primarily conservation NGO representatives, government officials, and civil society. Some of the key takeaways from the commitments, and I'll run through these, and then in the chat we will put sources to articles which go into a bit more detail around the commitments that were made. But 67 MPAs were announced, worth over 350 million. Africa countries really led the movement in that. Different countries you can see there: French Polynesia, Tanzania, Senegal, Gambia, many other countries, Portugal, announcing new MPAs to meet that goal of 30 by 30, protecting 30% of the world oceans, at least 30% by 2030. So major new commitments around 30 by 30. As mentioned earlier, over 6.4 billion was committed. $1 billion of that was from the World Bank. Canada committed over 600 million to one of its programs. And then a number of NGOs and philanthropy organizations also committed financing. You can see here, we've noted one here, $10 million commitment from the Minderoo Foundation and Blue Nature Alliance for a Marine 30 by 30 finance initiative. So real commitment, real movement we saw there at the Our Ocean Conference. We also saw countries committing to enacting certain policies, and so two or three that we were tracking quite closely, and I know a concern for faith communities. The first is deep sea mining. Kenya became the 42nd nation to call for a precautionary pause on deep sea mining, making that now 42 countries that are calling for that. There were a number of new signatories to what is called the High-Level Climate Resilient Coral Reef Commitment. New countries that committed to that were Kenya, UK, Dominican Republic, Comoros, and Mexico, bringing 20 countries to that commitment. And Kenya, again, with the other African countries, really leading the way, launching a blue carbon action plan as well. So there was a lot of movement there at the Our Ocean Conference, a lot of commitments from governments, NGOs, philanthropy, committing financing, committing to enacting certain policies at the national and the regional level, which really gave a sense of momentum that work is actually happening very much so. But before the conference started, we gathered faith leaders for a conference itself, and I'll hand it over to my colleague Tariq Al-Olaimi to speak more about what we convened and the commitments that were made there. Tariq, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Gopal, and good day, everyone. This is Tariq calling from the island of Bahrain. My sea fact is unfortunately coming from now the hottest waters and hottest sea in the world, and something that we're contending with on the Strait of Hormuz, and something in which in my part of the world it has brought this issue, as well as something of very deep importance to the many faith communities that are also on this coast. So as Gopal just shared, in the lead up to the Our Ocean Conference, Gopal, if you can please help me with the slides and to change the slide, thank you. We held the Ocean Interfaith Forum. This was a collaborative initiative put together by both the local and international partners. The forum itself, the Our Ocean Conference, looked at really the connection between our ocean and our heritage. And of course, in Mombasa and on the Swahili coast, faith is intertwined with heritage and heritage is entwined with faith. And our goal was really to bring this perspective to the proceedings alongside the many other side events that were taking place also on that day. One was a youth summit, the other was a research and scientific symposium, and the other was an executive and investment and business forum. One thing also I think to note, which is also interesting for us, that even in those other side conferences and in the many side events that happened in the Our Ocean Conference around traditional knowledge and indigenous peoples' engagement, many of them were faith actors. And I think it was a very interesting perspective to look at it from, maybe not just a religious perspective, but really a heritage perspective, and how that really intertwines with the kind of leadership that we know MPAs require, and that we know many of the community-based efforts on ocean action require as well. So I think for all involved, it was a great opportunity to really look at what is our frame, what is our collective, approach to such conferences, as well as a wider faith community. We're joined really in the leadership of some of our local partners, particularly from the Anglican Communion and their partners on the ground, who really helped to bring 70, really in the end, local faith leaders, congruents across a variety of traditions, as well as government officials, ministers, who were coming from both a ministerial hat, but as soon as they entered into the room, they recognized all the religious leaders because they were those that they pray with every single weekend. So it was a nice environment there. We have some of our partners as well who are on this call. I'm also looking at the High Seas Alliance. We're really honored to be joined by an opening keynote by Rebecca Hubbard, who's director of the High Seas Alliance, to really frame, what does high ambition or what could high ambition action look like for this particular community. We started the day as well with the interfaith prayer by the ocean, in which we grounded in our different traditions, really so that we're able to look at in our own scriptures, in our own teachings, what does it say about the ocean? Where does it compel us to act? And I think there is obviously a lot of harmony in many of our traditions. And I think what's also beautiful, a lot of differences as well in our traditions and the different elements and aspects that we all emphasize and really to create such a beautiful whole and a beautiful container collectively. Next slide, please, Gopal. Thank you. A lot of the sessions in the forum itself centered around really our framing that the ocean is in crisis and much of that crisis is invisible. We know that the carbon dissolving into the ocean has no color, no scent. We know that the acidification eating at the shells of corals and small creatures around them makes no sound to us. Even as the water turns, acid faster into any time in our lifetimes, it's not something we notice on a day-to-day. Also, we find, the warming in our seas, the plastic pollution, the looming threat of deep sea mining. All of that happens in a way in which, for many of us, day to day, for many of our communities, we do not see. And obviously, what is not seen is not mourned often, and what is not mourned is not saved. What is not appreciated in its beauty is not saved. And I think for all of us, we believe that this is the work that faith communities are exactly made for, because for millennia, every great tradition has practiced the very skill the ocean now needs. It is making the unseen real. It is moving people to care for what they cannot touch, to protect for what they can't count, for something that maybe they fully can't understand or grasp, but know that their very lives depend on it. So in Mombasa, we had sessions such as a coral reef assembly, which is building on our coral compass with the Earth Rule Center, which is really an assembly that looks at how can we govern not only for coral reefs, but as and with coral reefs. We had a session on what we called the moral catch, which is what does a moral system around our fisheries look like? We heard some really heartbreaking stories as well, particularly from faith leaders who are doing human rights-based work along the coast, who are really looking at one of the greatest perils of our time for our fishery system is what is happening to our women, who are the majority of women who are handling the fishing industry from the point the catch is made across the wider system. And many of the faith leaders called out the need for faith groups to speak around what they called sex for fish practices, in which women are being abused on the basis of trying to secure fish and catch for their households, at the same time not being able to find that in the local markets due to industrial fishing and the lack of protection as well that's there in the international system. So there were difficult conversations, but also important ones to surface, these issues that we are maybe aware of tangentially in our communities, aware of maybe tangentially in our wider spheres, but there isn't a real moral actor to really bring this to the fore. And I think it really showed for all of us the wider scope of where and how faith communities can act, whether it's from a perspective of moral conscience, whether it's perspective of slavery at sea, whether it's perspective also rights-based approaches, even before we get to the actual practice of course, for many of these congruence of having physical infrastructure on the coast itself. Next slide, please, Gopal. This is one of the images from the Interfaith Prayer. In Mombasa, we also launched the High Ambition Coalition for Ocean Action. As I said, we had an opening keynote by Rebecca from the High Seas Alliance to really help us think around what does high ambition require around the ocean, and what is it and how can we frame high ambition for faith groups as well. And the High Ambition Coalition itself takes its name and its model on a broader high ambition coalition for governments around biodiversity, around 30 by 30. And in this case, we're adapting that model to look at independent society coalition focused on ocean and nature, and also one in which ambition for us is relative to capacity, not necessarily in terms of size. So a commitment from a parish is obviously a very different approach than a larger institution and congregation that may have a wider portfolio of pledges that they can make. And really, the aim of this coalition was really to build on the 2025 Multi-Faith Declaration that was launched last year in UNOC. Many of you, I believe, in this call have signed it, really turning that into a framework in which we can collectively make public, trackable contributions to ocean protection. Gopal, next slide, please. We also are looking at this in a way in which we recognize that many of you, and we see on this call, also have your own ocean communities and efforts. And many of those that have signed up in founding as well, this coalition, have similarly their own institutions, their own institutional approaches. And this is an effort really to unify all of us collectively, where it's a platform we can all come together and show both for governments, for civil society, for business, and most importantly, for our own congruence in the more than human world, where and how faith communities are showing up, and how we can also channel those efforts more effectively, efficiently, and support each other in those ways. Gopal, next slide, please. We have a website that we set up to help as well faith communities to think through and around this. I'll put this into the chat. And every commitment that we're sort of asking faith communities to make are around two axes. It either connects to sustainable fisheries, marine protection, deep sea mining, marine pollution, ocean climate, or faith education. And we know that faith communities are best placed to tackle those issues, whether through advocacy, education, stewardship, finance, and also really mobilizing their own communities. And on that site, you can see a wide variety of potential pledges that your faith community and that your community can also make, whether one or all, some or a portfolio. We are also keen to make this from the very beginning, a community-driven effort. So there will be a process in which faith communities can both pledge, register, report, and also be supported. And that's something in which we're doing with a broader founding members coalition. Gopal, can I ask you to share the next slide, of which you can see now on the screen, with the founding members being made up of the Anglican Communion, Bahu Trust, the Catholic Youth Network from Environmental Sustainability in Africa, SINESA, Dan Mission, Future Faith, Green Faith Africa, the Pacific Conference of Churches, who are also a member of the High Seas Alliance, Tikkun Hayam, Repair the Sea, and the United Madrasi Association, all of which representing multiple faiths. And with these founding members, they'll be supporting essentially the establishment of a secretariat to then support faith communities to make these pledges, to monitor, to establish the community-driven process, and then to by, inshallah, January, and the start of the BBNJ COP1, the first COP around the ocean, we will be able to announce commitments from not only these members, but we hope everyone on this call, in a way in which we can collectively track and support together. I do also want to maybe just take a moment. I see some of our supporters as well on this call. I'll call them out onto the spot. I don't know, Dixon, if you're there. I also see Dixon from Dan Mission, who was able to join us as well in Mombasa. Also spoke about Dan Mission's commitment. Dixon, I don't know if you're able to, hello Dixon. I don't know if I can maybe, sorry, I know this is putting you on the spot. Dixon, you spoke so beautifully in Mombasa about both why you joined the High Ambition Coalition, obviously the importance of Ocean Action for Dan Mission. I wonder if you can also share maybe on behalf of the founding members as well, some of your thoughts.
Yes, thank you very much, Tariq, Gopal, as well as us. It is nice to see you again after our meeting in Mombasa. We as the mission, we are very much honored to be the founding member of this coalition. It means a lot to us. because for so many decades, our work has been grounded in terms of faith and dialogue, but also done mission has done mission. We had several programs along the coast here in Zanzibar, as well as the coast of East Africa. And therefore, this coalition is not something new to that mission, but to complement what we've been doing for decades. So it's a chance for us to share our experiences. It's a chance for us to share our commitment as an organization, as individuals, but also with our partners for both in Tanzania and Kenya and Madagascar as well. So thank you very much, Gopal, and I wish you all best of luck.
Right. Thank you very much, Dixon. And
yes,
I also see Ulfat. I see you're also on the call. Ulfat Nasibu, she's the founder of the African Muslim Women's Action Network. You are obviously very present and very vocal voice as well in Mombasa and the forum. I wonder if I can also maybe put you on the spot to share some of your thoughts about your takeaways from the forum, what you're taking away in your work as well.
Thank you, colleagues. Thank you, Tariq. Salam alaikum. Greetings of peace to everyone. It's good to see your faces again after that wonderful pre-meeting we had in Mombasa. It was a blissful one of a kind, the first one to mention on Faith for Oceans to have in our city and in our country. So all attributes to all the founders and all the leadership at Faith for Oceans and everyone on board. It was a good meeting, and I'm happy to hear the report, including women. That is where I put my focus. I'm an expert of women's rights, Muslim women's rights, and a member of United Religions of Initiative. I was coming there as one of the members there, and also running an organization here in Mombasa, Africa Muslim Women Action Network, where we used Islamic theology to advocate for reforms on policy development, reforms on Muslim family law, and reforms on environmental justice. So one of a kind meeting like this, we were able to contribute our emotions. You know, women were always emotional, but our emotions being elevated to policy level, that is a brilliant spot for us. So thank you so much for the team, and I'm happy that I'm seeing everyone here. And I'm looking forward for the wonderful documentary that Elias was putting together during that meeting. Thank you so much. Gopak, Tariq, Dixon, everyone on board. Back to you, Tariq.
Thank you very much, sister. Thank you very much. And I maybe just also share in terms of next steps, a lot of the inputs that came from that forum. So we did an exercise that we called sort of a pledging exercise to look at what are some of the commitments that those communities could potentially make. Those are going to be now reflected in essentially the menu of potential actions and options that'll show up for all of those that are seeking to make commitments. But particularly your perspectives and what you brought to the meeting will heavily influence a lot of the fisheries policy work that we'll be doing going forward, and really investing in the right space to purchase, particularly for women, and we'll be dedicating a lot of our resources to that in the coming month. And then on the Coral Reef Assembly, maybe just sort of a closing note, we'll share with you as well a link to that primer so you can sort of view it. That session itself was led by Biophilic Conversations, and they're an incredible women-led biodiversity conservation organization based in Mombasa and Nairobi. We'll be working with them and the Earth Law Center going forward to really advocate on behalf of faith communities for coral reefs, and looking at how and where we can have coral rights-based approaches in the work that we're doing, particularly on an issue in which for many, as we've learned, very unfortunately in Mombasa, to quote someone who's very close to the secretariat of the conference, ocean people don't care as much about corals as they maybe should, which was very surprising to us. But it was really coming from a place from a policy priority, but also something in which, of course, for the wider public, it's something that captures our imagination as coral reefs. Most images that we see of the ocean are coral-based. but it's not something which our policy and our governance really is in alignment with. And I think that's the other issue that we've seen faith communities can contribute on rights-based approaches for the more than human world, and that which is unseen. With that, I'll pass it to my colleague Elise, who will run through a little bit around the different kind of media moments and how this was featured. Over to you, Elise.
Thank you, Tarek. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are on our planet. I'm in Paris, France, and I'm in charge of communications and media for Faith for Ocean. So I can say that our Ocean Interfaith Forum ignited a powerful media wave across continents. From France to Kenya, Uganda, and Ghana, major op-eds cast the ocean as our shared spiritual heritage and gave our High Ambition Coalition real institutional weight. So then, a few days later, in Mombasa, in Kenya, with the official launch, the national press, TV, and community radios captured the energy recreated together with a lot of laughter and communication all together, and it was a very, very positive moment. Pan-African outlets carried that momentum across the continents. In Congo and in Senegal and other French-speaking countries as well. And political leaders reinforced it in the Mombasa County. So in just 21 pieces, articles, and radio interviews and radio chronicles and TV reports, one message rose clearly. Faith communities are stepping forward as a moral force for the ocean, and our forum is already seen as a historic coalition. So I prepared a press review. I will put it into the chat, and you can have a look at it if you want it. Thank you very much, and I'm very happy to share this community briefing. Gopal, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Elise and Tarek, for sharing those updates. And before I move into what comes next and open the floor for discussion, I just want to say and recognize that, in addition to the local faith partners we worked with, which Tarek mentioned, there was an incredible team of organizers that we worked with on the ground, specifically Banda, Jane, and Esther from Nairobi and Mombasa. And without them, this event would not have happened. They really kind of stepped up in a significant way based on trust and co-delivered with us this amazing event. And not to embarrass him, but even just the press coverage, as Elise mentioned, we had national press coverage to the point where Tarek was recognized on the street. He was recognized in the airport by security. They were like, "We've seen you somewhere. We've seen you on the TV." So just the range of coverage that we had was amazing, and it would have not been possible without the support of the local team there. So huge thanks to Banda, Jane, and Esther for their work in the weeks leading up to and on the ground itself. So in terms of what comes next, as Tarek mentioned, there's an invitation to join the High Ambition Coalition, and Tarek has put that link in the chat a few times. And so please do visit that if you are interested in joining the coalition. In terms of a timeline, in terms of where we're moving next, just to recap, the High Seas Treaty came into force earlier this year in January. We just had the gathering in Mombasa. The next key moment for us is COP17 in Armenia, the CBD COP specifically, where there'll be the first ever global review of the Global Biodiversity Framework and the 30 by 30 target. And we'll be there advocating for ocean action and bringing high-level faith leaders to speak on the importance of ocean conservation. And then following that, the next key moment, and really much of this work is leading up to the first BBNJ COP1, which we now believe is going to be in New York City in January. So please bring your coats and your snow boots. So that will be the kind of a culmination of this work in many ways. So those are the key moments that we're looking towards. There are other smaller ones that we're still exploring, for example, New York Climate Week and other maybe more regional gatherings or local gatherings, but at least at the international level, we're looking at the CBD COP and the BBNJ COP1 as the key convening moments to keep this work going.